What's going on YouTube? It's Thomas DeLauer and I'm coming at you live, and I'm going to wait for a little bit of an audience to build. But if you are just tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or you're tuning in after the fact later on, I think you're going to really like what I'm talking about in this video. You know, I did a video a couple weeks ago that I actually did not as a live video, as a regular video, talking about de novo lipogenesis and how carbs actually turn into fat inside our bodies. But I figured it's a great topic to do live because I can actually invite some questions to come on in. So if you are just joining in, I would love for you to comment where you're watching from so that I can say hello. I love getting to know all of my YouTube subscribers, saying hello as much as I can. Dina, what's going on? Axel, Chris, good to see you here. Make sure you comment where you're watching from. That way I can shout out your hometown. We can get a little bit more personal on this. We've got England, we've got the UK in the house, we've got Central Florida, Aaron, we've got Hugh, I think I say your name right. Good to see you. We've got Chicago in the house, Michigan. We've got LA. Kelly, what's going on? We've got Norway. Don't you need carbs to turn into fat? I'll answer all those questions. Okay, we've got Morocco. We've got New York. We've got Iowa, Auckland, New Zealand, Akron, Ohio, Tampa, Florida, Seattle, Illinois, Phoenix, London, Canada. Chris, thank you. Colin in Kentucky, Katie in Houston. You guys are going so fast. We've got Stockton in the house, Stacy in Phoenix. Sorry if I'm missing you. Hey from Ireland, what's going on, Barry? We've got Randy in Maryland. We've got Rowena in Calgary, Alberta. We've got Albuquerque, New Mexico. Habib says, hey Tom, what's going on? Alberto from Monterrey, Mexico. This is awesome. Such a great turnout already. This is clearly going to be a good topic. Tamara, Lake Tahoe, Nevada. I used to live in Zephyr Cove, so I know right where you're at. Boston in the house, Nigeria, Alras, we've got Indiana, we've got Portugal, we've got New Jersey, Miami. Yeah, and you guys are so awesome. You know, I could sit here forever shouting you all out, and I definitely want to do that someday. I want to do a video where I'm just literally just saying hello to everyone and formally getting to know everyone. But if you can, if you're watching this video before I get into the science, if you can, just hit that thumbs up button. It helps the YouTube algorithms out, helps me get this information out there, gets everything. If you hit that thumbs up button, the like button, it gets these videos ranked higher. And I think a lot of you guys, if you're watching my videos, hopefully you agree that I'm trying to get my subscribers up. It's growing fast, but I need your help, so those likes will definitely help. What I'm going to talk about today is the process in which carbs convert to fat inside the body. But before I really get into the nitty-gritty of it, I wanted to welcome everyone here. It's definitely looking like a better turnout than normal, so this is great. Joshua, thank you for subscribing. Everyone, if you're just watching, you've never tuned in before, make sure you do hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. And then anyway, so let's go ahead and let's get down to what we're talking about now. Okay, so when we consume carbohydrates, it's all kind of common knowledge that essentially we end up turning those into fat if we don't utilize them. But I want to explain how that actually works in the process. And I got to get down super basic first in order to make it really work and make it really understandable. Okay, when we consume carbohydrates, of course, our body converts these starches, these carbohydrates, into glucose. And that's all cool. We know that. Okay, our bodies end up using glucose for energy. Our brain uses glucose and everything like that. Okay, all fine and dandy. But what a lot of people don't realize is the process in which how carbs and excess carbs really do turn into fat. You see, what happens is the excess carbs that our body doesn't use, the carbs that are not being stored in muscle glycogen or liver glycogen, go through a process that's called de novo lipogenesis. What that de novo lipogenesis means is it's the conversion of carbohydrates into free fatty acids and to triglycerides, more so triglycerides. There are a few amounts that actually convert into a usable form, but we're talking about triglycerides, which are 3 glycerol molecules essentially bound up into into just one kind of chunk, basically. And what that means is the body stores those for later. Okay, so those triglycerides are stored in the body. They're utilized later on. They're not super mobile. They just kind of sit there doing their thing. They don't really go anywhere, and then they end up depositing free fatty acids when we need them for energy. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that carbs that are converted into those triglycerides are converted into something else called palmitate, which means that they are much more dangerous to the body. So there has been science now that is now showing that carbohydrates turn to fat literally cause more heart disease and cause more diabetic issues than fats or anything else that don't come from carbohydrates. So we literally are creating a different kind of fat, a fat that is more difficult to use, a fat that is more difficult for our body to burn. And it's so crazy because, again, I can rant, but for so long we were told by the sugar industry that fats were really, really bad. And we were told by Ansel Keys, and I've talked about this before, but in reality, it's the sugar that turns to fat that's the bad kind of fat. Studies are now linking the fact that those sugars that convert to fat are the fats that end up clogging arteries and causing atherosclerosis and all this crazy stuff. Pretty nuts. Guys, if you guys are just joining in, make sure to comment where you're watching from so I can shout you out, but also make sure you please hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, and if you can, give this a share over to your other social channels so that a lot of people can learn about this. So I want to continue to talk about palmitate, which is what it ends up converting into. Okay, now palmitate is shown to be a very inflammatory substance. Okay, it triggers what are called inflammatory cytokines. Okay, now cytokines are not inflammation in itself. Cytokines trigger inflammation. So what we are now finding is that obesity and fat gain that comes from excess carbohydrates has a direct link with inflammation, more so than fats that are not linked with carbohydrates. I hope that that makes sense. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for the sake of this live broadcast. And Jocelyn, you ask, is that why grain-fed animals' molecular structure is so different? Yes, Jocelyn, great outside of the box thinking there. You nailed it. That's exactly why. It also has a lot to do with omega-6 fatty acids and omega-3 balance. Grain-fed animals have a lot higher omega-6 content, so they're usually running higher inflammation levels to begin with, simply because interleukin-1, interleukin-6, all these cytokines and these inflammatory mediators are elevated there. I don't want to, the bridge, you say you're going to come back and watch later. No worries, man. You're so loyal. You are always here watching my videos. I appreciate it. Hey guys, if you can, make sure you still comment where you're watching from. We got Texas in the house. Good to see you here. I'm going to turn this over into Q&A here in just a couple of minutes. So if you guys have questions, I just want you to hold on for just a few minutes so I can talk a little bit more and rattle your ear off just about fats and the conversion of carbohydrates. So what are the things that can trigger your body to upregulate de novo lipogenesis? Okay, so if you just tuned in, just so you know, lipogenesis, de novo lipogenesis, is basically where your body it is where your body converts carbohydrates into fats. Well, what kind of things can we be doing that are bad that might cause that upregulation of de novo lipogenesis? Okay, what kind of things are we doing? Well, I'll give you a couple examples. Okay, one example is consuming way too little fats. It is now being found that consuming under 15% of your daily calories in fats, so if you're not having less than 15% of your calories from fats, it upregulates de novo lipogenesis. You see, if your body's not getting enough fats from the diet, it's going to try to get more fats from carbohydrates, even if you don't necessarily have an overage of carbohydrates. So if your fats are too low, hear me out on this. This is crazy, guys. So listen up super carefully if you're not paying close attention. You don't have to have too many carbs to have that carb spillover that causes fat gain. Pretty nuts. All it has to happen is you have to have so low amounts of fat that your body decides to utilize carbs to create those fats. Pretty amazing that our bodies have the ability to take carbohydrates, a carbon, a hydrogen, oxygen, and actually convert it into a fat molecule. That alone that blows my mind. But the fact that we don't even have to have an overage or a surplus to really make that happen, potentially not even a calorie surplus, that's phenomenal. If you guys are following me and you think that I make sense, I just want to make sure everyone's following. Can you just type in and say that you got it, you understand it? I just want to make sure I'm not rambling. I have to admit I'm a little bit tired today, and I hope that I'm making sense on everything. So just let me know so that way I know. But I do want to talk about the other topics of things that really cause. Thank you guys. Thank you for sharing this stuff. You guys are awesome. Joshua, thank you. Katie, thank you. Amber, thank you. Denise, thank you. Charles, thank you. Zaya, thank you. You guys are super awesome. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so what are some of the other things that can cause this? Well, believe it or not, cheat meals. And the reason is not because of the calories usually. Why are cheat meals so bad? My good friend Lane Norton and Dom D'Agostino, who are big guys in the world of ketosis, they're both doctors. Dr. Dom D'Agostino, one of my favorites. He's a PhD researcher down at the University of South Florida in the world of bioengineering. So he's really, really awesome. He had did a couple podcasts talking about the conversion of cheat meals really into fats, like a whole lot, and why it's really bad. Well, it doesn't just have to do with insulin. A lot of times it has to do with the fact that we upregulate that de novo lipogenesis. Our body, when it has a big influx of carbohydrates all at once after not having a lot of carbohydrates, that's when the magic happens, or should I say the disaster happens. Okay, your body upregulates de novo lipogenesis, stores all those carbs as fat as much as possible, converts them into a usable form, converts them into triglycerides. Okay, now those triglycerides, like I mentioned earlier in the video, those are what are leading to the bad levels of LDL and VLDL. Okay, those are the things we have to be concerned with, not necessarily some of the other stuff that we're always worried about. I'm going to open this up to Q&A, and I, just as an encouragement to have you guys try to be on these Q&As as much as possible, I'm hoping that I can get to all of your questions. Loja, you asked if I can repeat the part about cheat meals. Essentially, cheat meals upregulate the ability of the bodies to absorb carbs as fat. So the short answer with your cheat meals is you need to control them, and rather than doing one cheat meal, you should do like 3 smaller cheat meals throughout the course of like 6 to 8 hours. Okay, you almost want to treat your cheat meals as like almost a phase of intermittent fasting. So Bill, you ask, are sweet potatoes a bad carb? Is that sort of thing I'm talking about? No, sweet potatoes would actually be a great source of carb to have a cheat meal with, simply because you're not spiking your insulin quite so much. White rice, also good. I actually have done a video surrounding brown rice and white rice. White rice, believe it or not, is not far off in glycemic index than brown rice. And I could do a whole other video talking about the balance of that, but essentially brown rice, you actually have less control over your carb spike, your insulin spike, than you do with white rice. If I'm going to have carbs, I'm going to have white rice because I like to control what's happening and not have to deal with this bell curve that's going to elevate my blood sugar for a long period of time that I can't control. I want to be able to maintain and control a lot of them. So generally speaking, I'm in ketosis. Those of you that you guys might know that I'm prepping for a pretty big shoot and video shoot in Bermuda next week. And I'm pretty happy with what's going on. I'm pretty happy. I did have to go out of ketosis. I'm pretty happy. I don't usually do this, but this is pretty cool. I'm pretty happy about that. I think things are coming along pretty well, considering that I have really not been doing photo shoots lately and being able to just kind of go from keto straight into having some carbs and getting ready for this shoot. So that's why a lot of this stuff is fresh on my mind and not my normal thing. You guys see my videos. I'm not usually the kind that's wanting to flaunt my abs or anything like that. But generally, what I'm doing right now is I've come off of keto and I have had to go into higher carb prepping for the shoot for a couple of weeks. And man, my brain is suffering. I mean, I'm missing ketosis like crazy. I'm missing my fats. It's definitely tough. So, okay, and then Gerard, you ask, is natural peanut butter ideal for a ketogenic? I'm not the biggest fan of peanut butter because it's a legume and it ends up responding a little bit different in the body. We have a pretty severe inflammatory reaction to legumes, to peanuts generally speaking. They're also not the highest in omega-3s, they're pretty high omega-6. So if you're sensitive to fats and you're in keto, I prefer doing something like almond butter generally speaking, or one of my personal favorites, sunflower butter. I think that's one of the best ones that you can do. Very, very easy to digest. Guys, if you guys are just joining in, I would really appreciate if you could hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button for me. Quick just recap on how YouTube kind of works. YouTube loves to see the engagement. They love to see the thumbs up buttons. It means that I'm producing good content, especially on these lives. And I really want to do more of these. And if I get a lot of engagement and a lot of viewers on these, then it encourages me to do more of them, but it's also going to serve them to more people. When I hop on Facebook Lives and do them on Facebook, a lot of times will have 1,000 viewers at one time and something like that. So I really would like to be able to get YouTube up there just as much, if not more, because I think that you as YouTube viewers are much more educated than a lot of the people that are just scrolling through Facebook. Anyway, so is there a difference between combining low fat and carbs versus high fat and carbs? Yes, huge difference. So high fat and carbs, if you are consuming carbs with your fats, those fats are not going to get utilized as fuel. They are going to essentially get stored because insulin is going to shuttle them into storage. Rule of thumb, do not combine fats and carbs. If there's one thing that you take away from this, do not combine those fats and carbs. Definitely want to keep them separate. Margaret, what's going on in Costa Rica? Good to see you here. Guys, don't forget to, as you join in, if you start doing these broadcasts with me, you'll get used to it. I definitely want you to comment where you're watching from whenever you come in. Are there any fats you should stay away from when you're in keto? No, but you do want to go easy on the olive oils and stuff like that. You usually want to be able to kind of balance it a little bit. I'm a big fan of rotating out the kinds of fats that I use. So essentially meaning I'll use olive oil for a little while, then I'll switch to macadamia nut oil, then I'll switch to avocado oil, things like that. I do my best to rotate them up so I'm always never at the mercy of the weakest link of a specific fat. If I'm using olive oil all the time, eventually I'm going to become imbalanced and have a lot of omega-6s. Is coffee with coconut oil good? That is a huge one in keto. Yes, it's very, very good, because what it's going to do is the MCT oils are very, very good at being mobilized and not being digested by the liver, meaning they have to be used for energy. Also contain a lot of lauric acid, which is really, really good for the body in many ways, converting into monolaurin, which can do a lot of things for your gut health, do a lot of things for your brain, a lot of things there. Then the coffee mobilizes those MCTs, and that gets the fat going a little bit more. Mobilizes the fats, so the MCTs can do their job a little bit more. So I hope that makes sense. Nicholas, you asked if you can be a vegan and keto. That's a tough one. It's definitely doable. I'm actually collaborating with someone that's got a fairly big YouTube channel that is a vegan person that is, I wanted to do that. I wanted to talk about vegan and ketosis. How do you stack curcumin, CoQ10, and resveratrol and what liquid? CoQ10, I'm a big fan of taking like 600 milligrams at night. I do that simply because I feel like the mitochondrial efficiency is very, very important there. Currently on keto, had 911 calories. It's scrolling too fast. I can't see that. Should you cycle your carbs to lose more weight? It depends on the person. A lot of times if you carb cycle, then you end up having these big surges in insulin and you end up having these imbalances. So it can be really, really tough. Someone asked, not combining fats and carbs, what about veggies? Yeah, you're fine with veggies, trace carbs. We're not even breaking down much of the cellulose to begin with veggies, so we're really not even absorbing many of the carbs right from the get-go when it comes to veggies. Guys, if you can, please make sure you hit that like button. I'd love to get this video up over 200 likes before I wrap it up. Any thoughts on the benefits of downfalls of using CLA in ketosis? Conjugated linoleic acid, it's got some benefits, of course. We all know it's a great mobilizer. We all know that it does some things in terms of mobilizing dormant fat cells. That's what CLA is good for. But the problem with CLA is it's very inflammatory. It's usually safflower oil, strong omega-6. We don't want all those omega-6s all the time. So that's what we're kind of worried about there. I'm going to have to start wrapping this up, guys. So if we can, just get one last round. I'm going to answer 3 more questions, and I need to get those likes over 200 before I go. So you guys, please, if you can. How soon will the carbs turn into fat? Someone asked. That's a good question. All depends on how much activity you've had throughout the day. Okay, so your previous activity will dictate how your body saturates those carbs. Your body turns into sort of a sponge, right? You end up wanting to consume or wanting to absorb what you need. And if you end up not working out that day, your body's not going to want to absorb as many carbs. So that's dictated by that quite a bit. If one has adrenal fatigue, do you recommend keto and fasting? Fasting can be really good for adrenal fatigue. Ketosis, jury's kind of still out. Don't really know a whole lot in that world, although it is somewhat of an adaptogenic style diet, meaning it does regulate your hormones a lot. Robert, you asked, why do I eat more carbs for the photo shoot? Simply because it's a matter of filling out. Because I was a lot bigger before, personally, I have some loose skin. And when I'm in ketosis, I lose a fair bit of muscle volume simply because I'm not holding as much water. I don't lose muscle mass, but I lose muscle volume. And when it comes time for a photo shoot, I need to make sure that I'm filling out and actually pushing out against the muscle so that it can actually feel that way and look full. So carbohydrates will help me do that. So it's a very delicate balance. I'll have to talk about that someday. You guys know I don't really talk too much about the whole fitness modeling thing. I don't talk too much about that, and simply because frankly, it's not what defines me. It's something fun. It's something that I do to be able to motivate and encourage people, but I'm not a big fan of that industry to begin with, simply because I think it's very, I don't know, it's a narcissistic industry that breeds a lot of unhealthy things. Susie, you talk about coconut flour and almond flour. Yes, tremendous when you're in keto. Pre-workouts on keto, you have to be careful with them because some of them have sugar, but you also have to be careful high levels of aminos in there because aminos can kick you out. Malfrius, you say, with all due respect, do you take steroids? Just an honest comment. No, that's honestly why I think sometimes you look at these pictures and everything's like that. I'm not as big as I look. I'm 185 pounds, so I can see why people would think that, and I honestly always address that question honestly. So I appreciate you asking. I appreciate you asking with a very cordial way. What pre-workout would I recommend? There's a company by the name of Sheer Strength Labs. I do some videos for them. I help them out. Their pre-workout, they have one that's called Sheer Thermo. The nice thing about it is it's not a typical pre-workout. It doesn't kind of crack you out and make you feel crazy. It's a little bit more of a nice, it's got 5-HTP in it, so it's really good for mental focus. And yes, Jordan, aminos can kick you out of ketosis if you have too many of them. Again, jury's still kind of out on that one too. How much bread can you safely eat? I'd say about a half a slice. Guys, I've got to wrap it up. My wife is pinging me here on my laptop. I can hear it going off. She has made some awesome dinner that I'm going to have tonight. So I've got to jump off. But you guys make sure you continue to comment what questions you have, or if you have, even better, an idea of what kind of live videos you'd like me to do in the future. That would be stellar because I would love to go through these and have my team go through these and determine which ones would be best to do. And if you guys can, one more quick round of just hitting that like button just to help me out, that would be super, super helpful. YouTube really does rate that, and I really try to put good content out there. I think you see on my channel, lots of videos really helping people out. So be like, say, tell the wife, said, hey, I definitely will. Keto rash, yeah, it usually will go away. Can low vitamin D cause hair loss? Yes, essentially it can. All right, you guys, got to wrap it up. One more quick round of goodbyes. Make sure you comment where you're watching from, and I will see you. New video coming up tomorrow on something called theacrine, by the way, something very, very interesting, a new form of, or new undiscovered sort of form of energy that's very similar to caffeine, but it's called theacrine. It doesn't have the drop-off effect that caffeine has. So tune in tomorrow. It's going to go live Thursday. All my videos, FYI, everybody, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, always new videos, sometimes bonus videos on Fridays. You guys are super awesome. I love you guys. See you soon.